Do you ever feel like your brain is a web browser with 500 tabs open all at once? And to make matters worse, you have absolutely no idea which tab that annoying background music is coming from? We live in a world where being busy is worn like a badge of honor. But in reality, it's like trying to run a marathon while wearing a backpack full of rocks. If you feel overloaded right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Consider it your way of telling the universe, hey, give me a break, will ya? Today, I'm not going to give you 10 cliche tips like, just be happy. Instead, I'm going to tell you a story. A story about Leo, a guy who had 500 tabs open in his head just like you, and his strange journey with a glass of water. So sit back, relax, and if you're holding your phone, put it down. After you've liked the video, of course. Because this story might just change how you see tomorrow. Meet Leo. Leo is 24, and if worrying was an Olympic sport, Leo would take home the gold medal. 3 years running. Leo's mind is a Category 5 hurricane that never makes landfall. By day, he stresses about unanswered emails, wonders if his boss is breathing down his neck, or panics that he might have accidentally liked an ex's photo from 3 years ago while stalking her profile. At night, when the rest of the world sleeps, Leo's mind throws a party. Thoughts of the past, regrets, and fears about the future dance around in his head like Energizer bunnies. Leo tried everything. He downloaded meditation apps, but the narrator's voice just made him sleepy, without actually helping him sleep. He bought expensive pillows, drank herbal tea that tasted like lawn clippings, and even tried screaming into his pillow. The result? 0. Zip. He was burnt out, drained, and couldn't remember the last time he genuinely smiled. If you see a bit of yourself in Leo, leave a comment below saying 1. We need to know we aren't alone in the Insomnia Overthinkers Club. One day, over the noise of a crowded coffee shop, Leo overheard a rumor about a wise sage living in a remote village tucked away in the majestic mountains. Rumor had it, this old man used to be a famous psychologist in the city who helped thousands find peace, but he retired to the mountains to live a simple life. A spark of hope lit up inside Leo. He thought, this is it. Maybe he has a magic pill or a secret incantation to flip the switch in my brain. So grabbing a backpack and a pair of running shoes, which he swore he'd use for the gym last year but never did, Leo hit the road. The journey wasn't easy. Leo realized that hiking looks a lot easier on Google Maps than it feels in real life. But the hunger for peace kept him moving. After days of navigating winding trails, he finally reached the village. The sage's house appeared, tiny and covered in lush green vines. On the porch sat the old man, meditating with his eyes closed. A strange sense of calm radiated from him, a stark contrast to the chaos Leo carried inside. Leo tiptoed closer, afraid the sound of his sneakers would shatter the silence. He whispered, "Master, my mind is a mess. I can't stop thinking. I'm exhausted. Please, teach me the secret to finding peace." The sage slowly opened his eyes. There were no lightning bolts, no epic orchestral score. He just smiled gently and said, "So, you are seeking peace? All right, I have a small task for you." He led Leo to the garden, picked up a glass, and filled it with water. And when I say filled, I mean to the absolute brim. One tiny breeze or a shaky hand and that water was going over the edge. He handed the glass to Leo and said, "Your mission is to take this glass, walk to the edge of the village, and come back. But remember this, if you spill a single drop, I will not teach you a thing." Leo looked at the glass, then at the old man. He thought, "Are you serious? I climbed mountains for days just to be a waiter?" But seeing the determined look in the master's eyes, he nodded. Challenge accepted. Here's where it gets interesting. Imagine you're holding a ticking time bomb, but the bomb is made of water. That is exactly how Leo felt. Leo started walking. The village road was unusually crowded that day. It seemed like market day or a festival. Street vendors were shouting, "Fresh veggies! Buy one, get one free!" Kids were running around, screaming and laughing like they'd just chugged 10 energy drinks. And if that wasn't enough, the village dogs decided to join the challenge, barking their heads off right at Leo's heels. A woman accidentally bumped into Leo's shoulder. A balloon zipped right past his face. The noise and chaos of life attacked him from every angle. But Leo didn't care. Leo's eyes were glued to the rippling water in the glass. He regulated every breath. He took one step at a time, slow and deliberate, like a cat on the hunt. Inside his head, there was no room for deadlines, no room for texts from his ex, no room for the fear of failure. Leo's entire universe shrank down to one glass of water. If you've ever focused on something so hard you forgot to eat lunch, comment "focus" down below. That is exactly the state Leo was in. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Leo returned to the sage. He set the glass down on the table. Not a single drop spilled. He let out a long breath, his face glowing with pride. "Master, I did it! I didn't spill a drop," Leo bragged excitedly. The old man nodded, that smile still on his lips. "Excellent. But tell me, on your walk, did you see the children playing by the roadside?" Leo paused. No, sir." "Did you hear the vendors arguing about prices?" Leo shook his head. "No, master." "And did you hear the dogs barking loudly as you passed by?" Leo looked confused. "Honestly, I didn't see or hear anything. I was just looking at the water. All my focus was poured into keeping it from spilling." At that moment, the sage placed a hand on Leo's shoulder and said in a warm, deep voice, "That is the secret, young man, a power that has always been inside you, though you never knew it. When your mind is completely focused on the present moment, on the glass in your hand, there is no room for fear, no room for confusion, and no room for useless thoughts about the past or future." The old man continued, "You didn't hear the noise, not because the noise didn't exist, but because you chose not to let your mind house it. In that moment, you weren't suffering over the past. You weren't worrying about tomorrow. You only had now and the water. That is peace." Leo stood there, stunned. The old man's words hit him like a splash of ice-cold water. Shocking, but the most refreshing thing he'd ever felt. He suddenly realized that the peace he trekked mountains to find wasn't in this temple, wasn't in this old man, and wasn't in some far-off land. Peace isn't about running away from the noisy world. Peace is the ability to keep your mind focused on the present, right in the middle of the noise. It's like standing in the eye of a storm. The winds are raging around you, but you are still. Leo bowed deeply. "Master, I understand now. To empty my mind of anxiety, I must fill it with the present moment." The old man smiled one last time. The sun began to set, painting the village in gold. The birds flew back to their nests. Leo picked up his backpack and started the journey home. And you know what? He was still Leo. His job was still there, the deadlines were still there, and the ex, well, she was still an ex. But Leo was different. He was no longer the guy with a head full of storm clouds. He walked lightly because he learned how to keep his glass of water steady. Leo's story ends there, but yours is just beginning. In life, we are constantly bombarded by notifications, news, and pressure. We are like a glass filled to the brim, trying to stuff more in, but the water just spills over and makes a mess. The lesson here is simple but incredibly powerful. Empty your mind. Emptying doesn't mean you become stupid or stop thinking. It means you declutter the junk of the past and the fears of the future to make room for the power of the present. When you focus completely on washing dishes, just wash dishes. When you play with your kids, just play with your kids. Don't let your mind wander to tomorrow's meeting. If you feel like this story touched a tired part of your soul, help me spread the word. Share this video with a friend who you know is holding a glass with shaky hands. They might really need to hear this right now. And don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel. I've got plenty more stories waiting for you. Remember, peace is always inside you. You just need to clear some space for it. Thanks for listening. Have a mindful day and keep your water steady.